So we all know Bitcoin has been going insane recently, coming back to over $100,000, trying to push its all-time high. Maybe soon we'll get a new all-time high in Bitcoin, and everyone will be talking about it, of course. But Coinbase is back on their Bitcoin business stuff. They are putting out new ads that are about Bitcoin and the Fed, and not focusing so much on the altcoins that they love so much. Because we all know they run an altcoin casino, and that's where they make the vast majority of their money, is people trading on there and taking the fees through that. But they have kind of shifted to more towards Bitcoin stuff because that's the name everyone knows. That's the name that's institutionally getting adopted. You know, people say crypto this, crypto that, but it's really Bitcoin. When you look at Coinbase being basically the Bitcoin custodian for all of these institutions, whether it's the ETFs with BlackRock and all those guys, or Saylor even holds all of his Bitcoin with Coinbase. They hold, I think they custody like over 2 million Bitcoin, which is insane. Well, hopefully they custody it, right? There's no proof of reserve. We don't know if they have it. They say they do, but you know how that game works out. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. If they don't, they're going to blow up at some point. But these are the ads that they put out here. This first one talks about kind of like them and the size of Bitcoin. It's an interesting ad. It's short, it's to the point. It's a good ad, actually.
If a Bitcoin was the size of a quarter, all 21 million of them would fit inside a single shipping container. But to fit the dollars the Fed prints on average every day, you'd need 72 shipping containers. Each year, you'd need 26,280 containers. And to fit what they've printed in the last decade, well, you'd need a lot more than that.
So straight to the point, actually pretty good ad, and I think like this shot kind of puts things more into perspective for people because the number's so big. Like even when you talk trillions of dollars, that's just such a big number. People don't really know what it means anymore. Like once you get like 1,000, million, billion, that you can kind of scale that. Even billion starts to get a little hard to scale in your head. Trillion is like off the scale. Once you start talking about trillions of dollars being printed or trillions of dollars in debt and $1 trillion companies, people just kind of tune out and like, that's just an insane number. Don't even know what it means. But the visual representation for this is, I think would hit better. So like you see, this is all the Bitcoin. This is what they print in a day, I think they said. And it just keeps going more and more insane. And people can look at this and say, oh my God, that's ridiculous, because they can visualize it and see just how insane each square gets. So it is funny that Coinbase is turning to like a Bitcoin. I mean, they started as like a Bitcoin only company. Then they introduced ETH and Litecoin, I think, and then Bitcoin Cash. And then they went full blown altcoin season and listed anything that they could to try and make those fees. And then you kind of come back to people really kind of trade crypto. I'm sure they still make billions of dollars in that business, but like the business that they could run would be way more lean and make way more money is custodying Bitcoin. And they're basically the custodian for everything. Like I said, they have like 2 million Bitcoin custodied, ETFs. Basically any institution that doesn't want to do it themselves uses Coinbase. And there's a lot of money that they can make in just custodying things. And they have the solution for it. They have all the tech in-house and they know how to do it. So it's an easier way to make money for them, I would think. But they do have a second ad. They dropped multiple ads. This one, similar, like 30-second, short, sweet, to the point, and is about Bitcoin and the Fed.
Every day, the Fed prints an average of $465 million. That's 26,000 shipping containers a year, created out of thin air. Maybe that's why the dollar loses value over time. But there's one thing they can never print more of: Bitcoin. At the size of a quarter, this is all there will ever be. Shouldn't a store of value hold its value?
So again, short, sweet, to the point, using the shipping container analogy, which I think is a good kind of an easy way for people to visualize kind of what's going on. Like I said, the numbers are too big for people to actually, understand and kind of just write it off when you hear trillion. And then if you start getting to quadrillion, like, we're really just not going to even care about numbers anymore at that point. But this just kind of shows, like, Bitcoin, you've heard of it, you kind of know what it is, and you put it in perspective and say, this is everything that they print out of thin air. And even though the ad, like, I think the ads are pretty good, short, sweet, to the point, they get the point said, they easily visualize it. They're good ads. Like, you hate or love Coinbase, they're pretty good ads. But I still just don't think the average person really cares, because they don't really understand, right? People think you can just print dollars and just give people free money and that'll solve everything, right? Like, that's the thought process that people go through. There's even a clip like Joe Rogan or something where he said, oh, just give every taxpayer $200,000 and everyone could live great. But that's just not the case. There's, like, if everyone's a millionaire, no one's a millionaire, because that no longer means what it means today. Like, if you're a millionaire today, people call that poor now. And you go back 30 years ago, that was like an insanely super mega rich top 1%er. Now people call millionaires poor. That's just kind of the level we're dealing with here. When you look at, like, Joe Rogan saying, just give everyone $200,000. You could eat great. You could go on vacations. You can do all this stuff, when it's just not how economics work. If you just print something, it becomes less valuable. So we're still very, very, very drastically behind in people understanding Bitcoin. But, like, anyone who's in Bitcoin, we've already known this for a long time. But more on Coinbase, right? So the commercials are great, but their business, where they could have had a head start and made way more money and been like the first Bitcoin treasury company instead of Saylor and MicroStrategy, they didn't end up doing it. And even recently, this was, Coinbase considered Saylor's Bitcoin strategy, but decided against it, saying there were definitely moments over the last 12 years where we thought, man, should we put 80% of our balance sheet into Bitcoin specifically? Brian Armstrong and the Coinbase co-founder and CEO, like, just imagine if they would have done that. Like, the amount of money they would have made would have been astronomical. I think there's something down here. Someone asked, like, Grok, so who knows how close or how accurate this would be. But this example here would be investing $8 billion in 2020 at 10,000 a coin would have made $82 billion today. So that's just 2020. Coinbase has been around way longer than that, but like, they're a smaller business, so they wouldn't have had that much money to put in. But say they could have had, like, over $100 billion in Bitcoin. I think that's more than Saylor, right? So they could have been the biggest Bitcoin reserve company in the world by just being part of the industry they were already in. They were a Bitcoin company. They supposedly understood Bitcoin, even though they went down altcoin casino. Business-wise, though, makes more sense to be able to do that to make money, right? People actually trade those things. Less people would trade Bitcoin. They'd rather buy and hold that. But, yeah, it's just crazy. Like, this Brian Armstrong, sometimes, I mean, most of the time, it seems like he understands Bitcoin and kind of gets it. I think I understand the Coinbase angle of them going down the business they did to make more money. It makes sense, but it's weird. Coinbase is like both sides. You just kind of got to decode things they say and see if they're saying the right thing, because they've said things that are insane in the past. They said things that are completely true. So they're just kind of a toss-up, but nonetheless, whether you hate them or love them, the ads are pretty good. The ads were short, sweet, to the point, simple, and easy to visualize for people. And if people actually watch these and kind of try and actually see what it's about, I think they'll maybe get a more understanding of Bitcoin and money and kind of what's going on a super, super simplistic level, which might get them in the door. But yeah, good ads from Coinbase. I think maybe more people will start to get in Bitcoin and kind of just maybe take a gamble on it, right? Even if they don't understand it, don't believe it at all, maybe they'll just put some money in there, because psychologically, over 100K is insane. That's a big psychological level. We've now busted through it like 6 or 7 times, and Bitcoin's not going to go. The percentage of Bitcoin going to zero is basically zero now. So, the upside is asymmetric. It's a very asymmetric bet, I think. But we'll see what happens. That's it for this video. As always, don't forget to smash that button and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in my next video.